So today's video is going to be all about my favorite eyeshadow palettes, but a little bit different than that even. If you clicked on this video because you're hoping you're going to see me just be like, oh my god, this is my favorite eyeshadow palette, I love it so much, and I'm obsessed with it, I can't live without it, go buy it, but that's not really what we're going to do here today. So before we get any further in this video, just so you know, there are timestamps down below where I kind of get to the point of like what my favorite eyeshadow palette might be, if that's really all you want to hear. But I do encourage you to listen to the rest of what I'm saying, because I'm not trying to necessarily push what works for me on you guys. I can give you ideas, but I really want you to start learning, so to speak, how to get stuff that really works for you. That's the goal. I got such a good response from you guys on my anti-haul video that I did last week. I'll link it somewhere around here. And you guys were kind of asking me, and you guys have sent me messages and Snapchats and da-da-da-da-da, kind of being like, thank you so much for making that video. Can you please talk about brands we should support or the stuff that we should buy also? I'd really like to hear what your thoughts are on that. And I think that's a great idea. And the number one thing that I feel like people kind of get sucked into when it comes down to makeup can be eyeshadow palettes, especially if you're just getting started or if you're trying to follow along with YouTube tutorials. A lot of times people are working out of palettes. I personally don't. I buy a lot of single eyeshadows, so palettes for me are these things that I own, and I might have a totally different opinion about them than you do, so bear that in mind. This is just my opinion. I do know that in my case and in most people's cases, even if you buy almost all drugstore makeup, the thing most people will kind of splurge a little bit more on is eyeshadow palettes. And for me, it was the very first high-end thing I ever bought was an eyeshadow palette. I still have it, and I'm going to show it to you to kind of drive my point home. This is the Urban Decay NYC palette. I bought this in 2010. And like, first of all, let's like take a look at this. So you guys probably can't tell, but it actually lights up. When I first saw this, I rationalized paying $60, $65, and I did not have, by the way. At the time, 2010, I was working 3 jobs. Like $60 was a week's worth of groceries to me. That was something I did not have, but I did scrimp and save, and I bought this eyeshadow palette. And let's take a look at it 7 years later, shall we? There's exactly one color that has been used, and it was a matte black. But I paid $60 for this eyeshadow palette. I really don't pull for it that much. The shadows are really pretty, but this is not practical for me and what I would use in a palette, which is why I'm making this video this way, to kind of help you figure out what you need in a video, so you don't end up with a drawer full of these types of palettes, which is what I have. I have the thing that I have the most of, that I use the least of, are eyeshadow palettes. That's just me. So I figured what I would do is break this down into the 5 different types of eyeshadow palettes that tend to come out, because let's get real, makeup companies put out so many. I mean, eyeshadow palettes are like one of the things that come out the most. If it's not highlighters, it's eyeshadow palettes. So I'm gonna break it down into 5 different types of eyeshadow palettes that are usually out there, the ones that I have that I like the most, and how to pick one for yourself. And there might be a couple in here that I would avoid if I were you. So if you want to find out this stuff, keep on watching. If not, X out the video. Like I said, this is not going to be quite as cut and dry as maybe some other videos are, but my hope is that you will learn something from it. So let's get started. Just kind of a word to the wise. I know it probably seems like a good idea to buy an eyeshadow palette, and it might be a little bit more cost effective, and we'll break down to how sometimes that isn't true. I would just spend your money on single eyeshadows. I just would. You get a lot more product for the price point, and you're probably going to end up with shadows that you actually use, as opposed to an entire palette that seems like this wonderful thing to have because there's 50 eyeshadows in it, but in reality, I mean, are you really using even a portion of those? I'm willing to guess not. So I would say my first tip is I would at least consider looking into single eyeshadows. Makeup Geek has incredible eyeshadows. I've been using them since the company started, and I love them. No complaints whatsoever. So really good price point for those type of shadows. Just wanted to throw that out there. If I seem like I'm being really negative or kind of not super excited about eyeshadow palettes, that's why. I just think it's more practical to buy individuals. So anyway, the very first type of eyeshadow palette that we're going to talk about are neutral palettes. As far as eyeshadow palettes are concerned, I feel like those are the ones that I can actually really justify spending money on, and I think are actually kind of worth the dollar, so to speak, as long as it's the right type of neutral eyeshadow palette. Because typically there's about 3 different kinds. The first one is an all shimmer palette, and even if they don't market themselves as all shimmer palettes, there are definitely a lot of them out there, and you have to understand that shimmer eyeshadows overall, for the most part, are the easiest to formulate and the cheapest to formulate. That's why they're able to make these eyeshadow palettes with so many of them. And the shadows themselves might be beautiful, but in a lot of ways they're not practical or usable for like an everyday look, or even to get one entire look out of the palette, which to me is why you should have a palette. If you get a palette and you can't create one or two looks just using that, you might as well be buying single eyeshadows, like I said. So a really good example of a all shimmer palette that I can think of off the top of my head are the Urban Decay Naked palette. I think now they're up to, and I'm not talking about the Ultimate Basics palette, we'll get into that one in a minute, but in terms of like just these regular kind of slim case naked palettes, the Naked, Naked 2, Naked 3, and they have a Naked Smoky palette. Those are kind of more or less what I'm talking about. I used to have the Naked one. I actually gave it away on a photo shoot with a model who really wanted it because like I genuinely never used it at the time, and I haven't missed it whatsoever. The palettes themselves are really beautiful, and I do understand kind of the idea behind them, but the reason this one remains almost completely untouched, I mean, what, I hit kind of some pan here on these last two shadows, and I guarantee you I did that when I first got this palette, but now that I bought single eyeshadows, I don't ever pull for this. The thing about these that makes them, in my opinion, not the most ideal palettes to buy if you're looking for a neutral palette is, once again, that they're all shimmer. And in some cases, especially in the Naked 1 palette, a lot of the colors are pretty much identical. I'm going to talk about the Naked 1 palette. I wish I had it here to swatch in front of you, and I'm going to insert some pictures that I pulled from the internet. I will cite where I got them from down below. That kind of shows the swatches of the shadows and the palette itself, and we're going to break it down. You're going to take what I'm telling you about this palette right now and you're going to apply it to every palette in the rest of this video. So bear with me while I explain to you kind of how to break down a palette and look at it and decide if it's worth purchasing or not, neutral or not neutral. So we got two highlight shades in this palette. They're shimmery, they're pretty. Not much of a difference with the two of them. One of them is a little bit more pink and one of them is a little bit more white. Like, realistically speaking, do you need both of those? Are you going to be able to tell the difference between the pink shade or the white shade? No. In fact, most likely you're going to use one or the other based on your individual skin tone, which is another reason, like I said, why you might as well just get single ones that work for you. Sidecar and Toasted look extremely similar to me, as do Hustle and Sidecar. Naked and Buck are the two matte blending shades and the only two matte shadows in the entire palette. One is just a little bit darker than the other one. You're really just looking at kind of depth, and depth can easily be manipulated based on how much you put on, or, fun fact, if you add just a smidgen of black to any color that you have, you can automatically make it a darker version of that color without needing two colors that are basically the same thing. Since I have given up my Naked palette and gave it to somebody, I did go back and buy a couple of the shades out of that palette that I do use individually all the time, which is one of the good things about eyeshadow palettes that I will say. Eyeshadow palettes do help you figure out which colors you gravitate towards, which one you use the most, which I think can help you make decisions when going to buy your own individual pan eyeshadows. So I will say that. And I also do really love Urban Decay eyeshadows. Like, I'm not trying to talk shit about the brand. I'm just, once again, trying to help you understand what palettes are worth buying and which ones aren't. My favorite all shimmer, or pretty much basically all shimmer eyeshadow palettes, are the Too Faced Natural Eye palettes. I have this one, and I also have the Natural at Night palette. I wish I would have thought to grab it. It's behind me. That one is beautiful on darker skin tones. It's meant to be kind of a darker, more smoky natural eye palette, but I personally use that one on darker skin clients all the time, and it's so gorgeous. But this is the more lighter toned one. Here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shimmery shades. This little top row up here are a few matte shades. They're not even shades I really gravitate towards, but I will use this palette when I want just a really pretty all over the lid color. Even still, don't reach for it that much. Next family of neutral eye palettes that you'll tend to come across are all matte shadow palettes, which in my opinion are the more superior ones to go for, especially if you're in the beginning processes of building a makeup collection, or if you just kind of need something for day to day, for travel. All matte neutrals, amazing. All matte neutral palettes weren't something we were seeing a whole lot of for a while there. I feel like maybe around last year, 2015 even, they started coming out with more of them. But the thing with all matte neutral palettes is, to be honest, they all kind of look the same. I mean, I have 2 and 3 of them in front of me, and I can promise you that I really only use one of them regularly. Three that I have in front of me, this is a really good drugstore option for you guys, by the way. This is a great palette, and I keep meaning to do an entire video with it. This is the Sonia Kashuk neutral matte palette. I use this as kind of an example, but I feel like most neutral palettes do this, and I don't really understand why. This is the Stila Eyes Are the Window Mine palette, which is also a really good one. I love the quality of this one. It's wonderful. But if you look at these two together, they're basically the same palette. The Visart matte palette looks a lot like this one, and so does the Urban Decay Ultimate Basics palette. They all interchangeable. They're the same thing. If you have one, you do not need all of them at all. You won't use them most likely. It's more helpful to be aware of these things when it comes to purchasing multiple palettes. I'm not saying don't buy at least one neutral matte palette. I think that's a good investment to make, but do not feel the need to buy a lot of them because you don't need them. And like I said, most of the times, a lot of the colors are the same. My favorite neutral matte palette is the Kat Von D Shade Light palette. It's broken up into warm, neutral, and more of a cool tone color family. I pull for this all the time. You can create so many looks using this one. The formula is really, really good, and the shades that are in here are wonderful, but when it becomes time to go buy, you know, full-size versions of this, once you realize, okay, I bought 3 of these palettes and I hit pan on this red color all day, every day, I'm tired of repurchasing the palette just for the red color, there are tons of companies that make similar shades to this, so it's easy to duplicate into a single eyeshadow collection. Does that make any sense? I also have a whole other group of neutral palettes that are more neutral and shimmer palettes. The Smashbox Full Exposure or the Too Faced Chocolate Bar, both I love, and if you want my opinion, I think you would have a really, really good time with both of them. They're both great. Don't fall for the other ones though. The Chocolate Bonbon, all the other ones are stupid. They're just basically the same palette, and they popped one, like, see, they even did it in this one. There's like a random lilac-y purple. I think the Chocolate Bonbon has like a random pop of blue in it. Like, no, you don't need all of them. Just get one of them. You'll be happy. This one's really great because it has a good combination of mattes, a good combination of shimmers. You don't have a matte black in it, not the end of the world, but like I said, if you can get a matte black, I would, because like I said, also, you can always just add a little bit of black to any of these colors if you want to deepen any of them up, and we'll go more into that when we talk about color theory and stuff in my later videos, which are coming, I swear. This is a really good recommendation. It's not my favorite, but I would say if you're a beginner and you need a good matte and shimmer palette, this is a good one to go with. My favorite for me, my skin tone, the types of looks that I like to create, is the Smashbox Full Exposure. You have one row of shimmer shadows, which are almost like pressed pigments. They're an amazing formula. And then you kind of have a row of your matte shades. These are really light though. These matte shades down here, obviously there's a matte black, and I use the shit out of it. If you're deeper complected, I do not think this is a good idea for you to purchase, or at least not to purchase and expect to get the kind of use out of it that someone around my skin tone or even more fair can get out of it. Once again, it's going to come down to you, your preferences, how you want to use it. But people around my skin tone, this is a really good option. I have a tutorial using this. I'll link it down below. It's really old, like, don't judge me, but if you want to see it in action, I'll link the tutorial. Look at my hands. Ugh. But if you want to see a tutorial of this one, I will link it down below. So once again, neutral palettes, and they typically come matte and shimmer, all shimmer meaning like one shade being, one or two shades being the exception, and then you have your all mattes. I don't think you can go wrong with any of these types of palettes, depending on what you need them for, but you definitely do not need them all. Don't buy them every time companies come out with them. You're going to end up with 2 drawers full of palettes that you just don't use, like I do. I'm just saying. I even got rid of a lot of palettes during this move because I didn't want to schlep all this stuff around, and I still have too many. Type of palette that you can usually find are more like rainbow palettes, which are really, really fun. A good example of a rainbow palette is something like the Urban Decay Electric palette. Smashbox came out with their Covershot palettes. This is the Bold Eye palette, all rainbow shades. Visart has an all rainbow palette. Kat Von D has come out with a couple. I think the Mi Vida Loca was meant to be a rainbow palette. These are really, really good for people who want to play with color but do not want to buy individuals one by one. And for that, I do see the merit in a rainbow palette, because let's get real, this palette, you can see me, hey me. Let's get real, this palette is cool, it's really fun, and I'm really glad to have it whenever I use it, but I don't pull for it very often. Same thing with the Smashbox Covershot palette, and same thing with any rainbow palette, unless you're just the type of person who really gets in there and plays with rainbow colors all the time, you could just completely pass on these altogether. Don't get caught up in the hype. Just because it comes out and it's new, you don't need it. If you're not going to use it, don't get it. But I actually do use both of these pretty often. But if I had to, I think they're actually discontinuing this, side note. I feel like I heard that somewhere. I'm not sure if it's true. But if you can't get your hands on this one, I do actually really love the Smashbox Covershot palettes. They're really small, compact. These are all matte shades and the pigmentation is really, really good. So I guess my favorite rainbow palette is going to be this one. My favorite rainbow palette is going to be this one. I don't have a whole lot to say on rainbow palettes, just to say that, like, if you're not going to use it, don't get it. But if you need like a pop of color every once in a while, they're good for Halloween, they're good for photo shoots if you're a makeup artist. Other than that, I would pass on rainbow palettes unless you're 20,000,000% sure you're gonna use them. I'm just saying. Next is the Trendy palette. This doesn't come around all the time, but when it does happen, boy, does it happen. Last year, 2016, and I actually wore this palette on my eyes today because I wanted to drive my point home a little bit. You guys been following me for a while, you know that burgundies, plums, reds are my favorite colors to work with in makeup. So last year I was in hog heaven. The first one that kind of came out along these lines was the Anastasia Beverly Hills Modern Renaissance palette, and I picked it up pretty much immediately when it came out. I'm actually wearing this all over my eyes today. You guys know as much as I do that once this palette came out, there was a slew of kind of imitation palettes of this. There were so many. I mean, off the top of my head, let's see, we had Violet Boss came out with one, Kylie Jenner came out with one, Huda Beauty came out with one, Natasha Denona's Star palette has those colors in it also. I don't think that was the idea behind it necessarily, but it has those colors in it too. I think the Lorac Pro palette that came out last holiday season was a burgundy toned palette. Smashbox came out with a Covershot palette that was, I mean, there was a ton of them. And if you weren't careful, it was really easy to end up with basically 7 or 8 of this palette. And someone like me who just naturally loves those kind of colors, whether they're trending or not, you don't understand the amount of restraint I had to exercise to not buy all of them, because I really wanted to, but it's pointless. There is no point. So if you get a trendy palette, we'll say, like the burgundy tones that came out last year, don't get any more. You don't need any more after that. I mean, I've had this one for almost a year. I use it all the time and I haven't even hit pan on it. In terms of favorite palettes, this is a favorite also. This is a top 3, maybe my #1 favorite eyeshadow palette in the entire world, in case you're curious. So yeah, beware the trendy palette. Then we have the only coming out because we need something to promote, so we're going to attach some type of aesthetic to it, whether it's a collaboration or some sort of movie franchise or whatever. It's basically a palette that wouldn't otherwise exist if they didn't have some sort of like random signifier to attach to it. I'm kind of looking at you, Too Faced Sweet Peach. I love a lot of Too Faced's eyeshadow palettes. The Sweet Peach palette, for example, I couldn't. Like, I almost picked it up. But when I went and looked at it, this is kind of, once again, how I'm breaking down how to decide if a palette is worth picking up or not. We'll pretend this is the Sweet Peach palette, because it's really not a whole lot different from this one anyway. But you had this palette with all these rows of shades that weren't that different. They were just neutrals, and you probably, once again, already have neutral palettes. But it just had 2 peach eyeshadows in it. Basically took a neutral palette and put a couple of peach shades in it, put some peach scent into it, launched it, and launched an entire collection around it, by the way, and tried to convince us that we needed it when we didn't, because to be honest, fun fact, especially as it pertains to peach colors, if you're like me and you have a lot of peach blush, you can easily use those eyeshadows. I guarantee you, you pull out a peach blush and a neutral palette, you could have created any of the looks that were created using that Sweet Peach palette. I didn't see any looks come out of it that were super cool or interesting or anything that I cared to recreate myself. But that's not even like the only type of palette that's like that. I mean, right now they have the Pirates of the Caribbean palette from Lorac. Like, I don't really understand the point behind that. It also is an umbrella for limited edition palettes too. There are some really good limited edition palettes that come out. My favorite limited edition palette I've ever got is the Kat Von D Metal and Matte palette, because I don't have anything like this. I really don't have a lot of matte green eyeshadow. I don't know why more companies aren't pulling that out. I love the idea of this row of matte colors with a row of shimmer shades that I can mix and match. So this was a really good investment for me. I love it, and I do pull it for it all the time. The other side of it, I bought the Kat Von D Serpentina palette, and I've never used it but maybe once. So, I mean, obviously I fall victim to this too. What I'm trying to say is, don't get sucked into limited edition palettes, because they are going to come out all the time. Every season, there's going to be 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or more limited edition palettes that are coming out. So if it doesn't fall under the criteria of what we discussed earlier, you know, do I need this? Do I have something like it? Can I recreate all the looks in this palette using what I already have? So as far as I'm concerned, limited edition, or we're just trying to pull something out so you'll buy something palettes, they come out the most. Comes down to eyeshadow palettes that I have the most of, that I use the least of, that are taking up the most space in my makeup collection. Limited edition palettes out the wazoo. I have way more than any one person should have, and they're cool, I guess. I was excited about them at the time, but I don't think you need them. My opinion. Super last, and almost didn't make the cut in the video because I feel like limited edition palettes and this particular type of palette are so similar that you might kind of be confused as to why I'm separating them, but I do feel like it needs to be touched on. Holiday palettes. Every year around, we'll say October, November, December, all the brands start coming out with their holiday palettes. Tarte does this really, really excessively, where they come out with the, Smashbox kind of does it too. They come out with these massive palettes. I think Tarte had one time that looked like it must have had 30 eyeshadows with a blush and a bronzer and a highlighter, and it came with a brush, and it came with a lip balm, and it came with a primer, blah, blah, blah. Overall, they're able to produce these palettes that are this massive and like so cost efficient because the quality is not there. I have to get into that thing within us where we feel like, yeah, whatever, it's 60 bucks that I don't have, but look how much I'm getting, when in reality, A, the quality isn't there, and B, usually there's nothing super remarkable about them. Too Faced does this a lot. They'll bring out these ginormous gift sets. Last year they did ones that actually looked like houses, like doll houses. They're cool in the sense that like they're good gift ideas. I have several holiday palettes that I literally never ever pull for, and that's another thing I think you could afford to set out more often than not. This isn't me trying to say, like, to summarize, I'm not trying to say that there's no palettes worth buying, you shouldn't buy any eyeshadow palettes, blah, 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 blah. I'm just saying, more often than not, companies know that eyeshadow palettes are big sellers for a reason. So they tend to put out so many of them, and they don't really spend a lot of time developing them, and the ingredients aren't super great, and the payoff isn't all that awesome, and I don't know. I feel like overall you just might have a better bet getting individual ones that you really, really love and will use all the time. In conclusion, what did we learn today? We learned that eyeshadow palettes are one of the most common things that makeup companies put out. We learned that you don't need all of them. I hope that's what we learned today. We also learned that, as far as I'm concerned, that rhymed, you're better off buying individual eyeshadows that you will actually get a ton of use out of. But if you have to get eyeshadow palettes, if you just are really drawn to them, you love them, you don't want to waste any more money on them, in my opinion, is, or if you're starting out in makeup and you really want to figure out where to go, good rule of thumb, nobody can go wrong with a good neutral matte palette. If you want to throw in a neutral shimmer palette, that's cool too. Or if you can find a really good neutral shimmer and matte palette like this one that works with your skin tone and you will use often, that's a good investment too, really good for travel. Palettes are super cool as well. They're good for pops of color, Halloween, makeup artists, or just kind of getting a little bit more creative with your makeup. But if you're not a color person, don't get them. You don't need them. Trendy palettes will come out again, I promise. And as far as those are concerned, you only need one of them. You do not need to buy all 17 of the burgundy eyeshadow palettes that came out last year. Edition palettes are not always awful. There are some really good ones out there, and there are some that you will probably get a good bit of use out of, but a lot of times They're not so much, so do a lot of research, do a lot of swatching, really ask yourself the tough questions. Do I need this? Do I have anything like this? Will I use this? What is the quality? Palettes can be very inconsistent, so when you're going through and trying to pick your limited edition palettes especially, make sure you swatch several of the colors. If only 3 or 4 of the colors are worth a shit, it's always a big waste of money. And lastly, we learned that holiday palettes are really cool and not all that glitters is gold. They make good gifts, I guess, but try to justify investing in them as something you're gonna use all the time, because you're probably not. And usually the quality of those types of palettes is way below what the quality of the line usually is, whatever. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like I said in the beginning, this wasn't meant to be necessarily a straightforward, here's my favorite eyeshadow palette, it looks wonderful on me video. I wanted to help you guys get stuff that would look great on you and that you would use all the time. I make more of these types of videos where I kind of break down different categories of things that I do like, but also really help you guys figure out which ones you should be buying for yourselves. So if you have any more suggestions for this type of content, please let me know. I do still have the foundation series coming, and the color theory series is coming as well. But the color theory is one of those things that I feel like I need to like really nail and do a really good job at, so it's taking a little bit longer than the rest, but it is coming. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thumbs up the video if you did enjoy it. Check the down bar for links to all my social media platforms. Subscribe if you have not, and I will catch you in the next one. Love you more than you'll ever know.